BYD, the Chinese EV and plug-in hybrid manufacturers, are actively exploring an entry into Formula 1 and have had high-level discussions with the F1 CEO, the FIA president, while also looking at Christian Horner to come in and lead their entry. But would they find success with this? I loaded up my team in the F1 26 DLC and created the possible team, signing new drivers Gabriel Mini and Alex Dunn before simulating the next 10 seasons of Formula 1. Now, people often ask me how long these simulations take me, and I must say, it does take a long time and it does get really boring. But it's made quicker and a hell of a lot easier while playing F1 Clash, who are coming back to sponsor another video on my channel. F1 Clash is an officially licensed Formula 1 management game built for your mobile, where you can take charge of your very own Formula 1 team, controlling every decision and taking your team to the very top of the sport. You can pick your very own driver lineup from all 22 current drivers, as well as legendary drivers such as Mark Webber, Jenson Button, and even Ayrton Senna. Design your very own livery before heading into competitive head-to-head PvP races against real players to pull yourself to the very top of the league and receiving better rewards to improve your team even further. The strategic and fast-paced gameplay is completely free to play, meaning there's no need to spend any money to enjoy this game, but you can purchase optional boosts and upgrades for faster progression. The new Formula 1 season has also finally arrived at F1 Clash, with all 11 new liveries in the game, and you can download and try the game for yourself by using my link or scanning the QR code on screen, and you will also receive a great boost to help start the game strong. Downloading the game using my link helps to support the channel so much more than you can ever imagine, so download now, let's see who makes a better strategist, and once again thank you to F1 Clash for sponsoring another video. The title fight was a fairly close one, as the season opener was won by the reigning champion Lando Norris, while his teammate Oscar Piastri also managed to find success. Both Ferrari drivers secured race wins, while Verstappen was the only Red Bull driver and Russell was the only winner from Mercedes. Red Bull would finish down in P4 in the Constructors, behind Mercedes and McLaren, who both just missed out on the title. Ferrari would then be the victors, securing their very first championship in almost 2 decades. Both BYD drivers finished in the bottom half of the standings, as Mini finished in P14 and Alex Dunn was down in P20. Lewis Hamilton finished just outside the top 3, behind his former teammate George Russell, who managed to take that 3rd place finish. Ferrari driver Charles Leclerc's 7 race wins wasn't enough for his very first world title. Instead, Lando Norris would keep his McLaren at the very top of the sport, securing 10 race wins along the way. Russell and Hamilton managed 3 and 2 race wins each, while just 1 race was won by both Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen. Now, despite this major success, Lando Norris will actually leave the sport, as McLaren bring Carlos Sainz back to their team, while Sergio Perez moves over to join Williams. Lewis Hamilton decides it's finally time to retire from Formula 1 and leaves the sport, with his expected replacement Oliver Bearman joining Ferrari, while Nico Hülkenberg will return to Haas. BYD wants some more experience from their drivers, so they bring in Pierre Gasly to replace Alex Dunn. L-Plan is finally back in motion after Fernando Alonso will return to Alpine, allowing a trio of debuts to come in the form of Luke Browning at Aston Martin, Jack Crawford at Cadillac, and Pepe Marti rounding out the moves after signing for Audi. An increase in race winners up to 7 this season, as Leclerc managed to win the opener, while Russell continued to win in Madrid. His teammate technically managed to win his first races, while both McLarens, Max Verstappen and none other than Sergio Perez returned to the top step after moving to Williams. They still finished in P5 ahead of BYD in P8, while Ferrari dropped to 2nd, allowing Mercedes to return to winning the Constructors' Championship. Max Verstappen saw big improvements, winning 4 races, which took him up into the top 3. Charles Leclerc would remain in the runner-up spot despite last season's champion leaving, meaning a new champion is set to be crowned. Now this season it comes in the form of Mercedes driver George Russell, after his 9 race wins took him to the very top of the sport. Charles Leclerc wasn't too far behind, after like Verstappen, he also won 4 times, while Perez managed 3, Antonelli 2, and both McLarens tasting success on just 1 occasion each. Another 3 drivers are set to leave the sport, but none are really near the top, after Fernando Alonso and Nico Hülkenberg both decide to retire, while Lance Stroll is somehow finally dropped by Aston Martin. Gabriel Bortoleto moves over to Alpine, as Jack Crawford joined Haas, allowing the debuts of Tim Tramnitz, Nicolas Oliver and Oliver Goethe at Audi, Cadillac and Aston Martin respectively. Only 5 winners this season, with Leclerc continuing to start the season strong. He also won his home race of Monaco, while his new teammate Oliver Bearman managed to secure his first race win. Sergio Perez continued his strong form, while both Mercedes drivers found success once again. BYD have moved up to P6, while the top of the standings once again swapped to see Mercedes win the Constructors' Championship. Both BYD drivers finished inside the top half of the standings, ahead of Isaac Hadjar, while his teammate dropped outside of the top 3. Entering the top 3 for the first time saw Kimi Antonelli, just behind his teammate George Russell, who failed to retain his title. It would finally be the season for Ferrari to celebrate, as their golden boy Charles Leclerc finally achieved the success he's been chasing, securing the title after 9 race wins. Russell will be disappointed to miss out after winning 11 races, while Antonelli won twice and Behrman and Perez won a single race each. A huge transfer market is kicked off by Charles Leclerc leaving the sport, being replaced by a returning Lando Norris. Max Verstappen also enters retirement, while both Alex Albon and Luke Browning lose their seats. Franco Colapinto will take the open Red Bull seat, with Esteban Ocon returning to Alpine, and Max Eriksen coming in for his debut at Haas. Liam Lawson makes his expected move over to Williams, with Nicholas Soloff joining the Racing Bulls, allowing another Formula 3 icon Callum Voisin to join Formula 1. He will partner another debutant of Richard Verschoor after Valtteri Bottas moves over to Aston Martin. The final moves will then see McLaren and BYD swap drivers going into Season 4. Another 5 race winners were crowned this season, with both Ferrari drivers tasting success, just like both Mercedes drivers, while BYD driver Oscar Piastri recorded the team their very first Grand Prix victory. He helped BYD move up to 3rd place in the standings, but it would be the Ferrari team once again finishing at the top, with a huge gap over the Mercedes team. BYD saw both of their drivers move up into the top 6, with both drivers sitting behind both Mercedes drivers, while Antonelli finished the better of the two. He still finished behind both Ferrari drivers, with Behrman recording his career best finish up in P2, but would still finish just behind his new teammate Lando Norris, returning to secure another Drivers' Championship. His very strong season saw him win 13 races, while his teammate won just 4, Piastri managed 3 for BYD, Russell won twice, and Antonelli won just once. A much smaller set of driver moves this season as Williams replaced race winner Sergio Perez with a returning Alex Albon. Callum Voisin is dropped after just a single season, being replaced by Victor Martins, while Tim Tramnitz moves over to Haas, replacing Max Eriksen. The final seat will then provide a debut for Joshua Dirksen over at the Audi team. Race wins this season were shared between 6 drivers, but just 3 teams, as both Ferrari drivers, both Mercedes drivers, and both BYD drivers found success in the 5th season. The Constructors' Championship remains pretty similar, with BYD finishing in 3rd place, but the top 2 teams will swap once again, seeing Mercedes win another Constructors' Championship. BYD drivers remained in P5 and P6, while Behrman dropped to P4, being overtaken by both Mercedes drivers. George Russell was beaten by his teammate this season by just 2 points, as Kimi Antonelli moved up to the runner-up spot. The Drivers' Champion will also remain the same this year, as the new Ferrari driver Lando Norris kept his car at the very top, winning 7 races along the way, 20 points ahead of George Russell, who managed to win 9. Antonelli managed 2nd place after just 3 race wins, just like Piastri, while both Behrman and Gabriel Mini won a single race each. After back-to-back P7 finishes, Pierre Gasly will leave the sport, being replaced by Gabriel Bortoleto, while Isaac Hadjar leaves Red Bull in favour of Alpine. Race winner Oliver Behrman takes the open Red Bull seat, with the other Alpine driver Esteban Ocon joining Williams. BYD will then swap Oscar Piastri back to another team, as he swaps with former champ George Russell, while the final seat at Alpine brings Lance Stroll back into Formula 1. Oscar Piastri is the only race winner from last year that failed to keep it up, as Russell took the race win in the first race with his new team. Leclerc once again won his home race, while Lando Norris, Gabriel Mini and Kimi Antonelli all took more race wins. Mercedes dropped from 1st to 3rd, being overtaken by the newest BYD team, as well as Ferrari, who once again won the Constructors' Championship. Gabriel Mini kept a BYD car in P5, but was miles off of his teammate. Charles Leclerc returned to the team with a solid 3rd place finish, just a single point ahead of Kimi Antonelli, but over 30 points behind George Russell, who secured the team's best result yet as he finished as the runner-up. However, no one could prevent Lando Norris from securing another world title, but it did end up being extremely close. Russell managed an extra race win compared to Norris, but still finished just a single point behind. Both Leclerc and Antonelli managed 2 race wins each, finishing just ahead of Gabriel Mini despite winning 3. The former champions of Mercedes will have a completely new lineup, after losing Kimi Antonelli to the Shadow Realm and Oscar Piastri to Red Bull, replacing Oliver Behrman, who will join the Silver Arrows. Gabriel Mini's had an incredible career so far, but will lose his seat this season, being replaced by Franco Colapinto as the team try and take the next step. Victor Martins will then move to Red Bull, while Nicholas Soloff joins Cadillac and Pepe Marti makes a move to the Racing Bulls. Audi will replace him with Isaac Hadjar, allowing Roman Stanek to enter and drive for Alpine. Carlos Sainz is the final driver to leave the sport after deciding it's time for him to retire, as McLaren bring Alex Albon to the team, and Williams once again sign Liam Lawson. The final Mercedes seat is then given to Pierre Gasly, completing their driver lineup for Season 7. A massive cut down on race winners to just 3 this season, with Norris starting strongest in Australia. George Russell continued to take BYD to victory, just like his new teammate Franco Colapinto, who secured his first F1 victory. There's just a single change in the Constructors' Championship, as Ferrari dropped down to the runner-up spot, being overtaken by the newest BYD team after they secured their first Drivers' Championship in just their 7th season in the sport. Both of their drivers also finished inside the top 3, as their newest driver Franco Colapinto finished in 3rd place, just ahead of former champion and Ferrari driver Charles Leclerc. He unfortunately couldn't beat the other Ferrari driver of Lando Norris, who fell down to P2. A new champion will then be crowned, well, a returning one but for a new team, as George Russell is once again a champion, but this time driving for BYD. He won 10 out of 16 races this season, with Colapinto winning just once, and the rest being won by Lando Norris. And after failing to keep his title, Lando Norris will leave the sport, with his seat being taken by the Brazilian Gabriel Bortoleto. Franco Colapinto will leave BYD after a single season to join McLaren, as the newest Constructors Champions bring in Isaac Hadjar. Oliver Goethe will also leave Formula 1, being replaced by Jack Crawford, and Pepe Marti joins championship contenders of Mercedes. The final 2 seats are at Audi, who signed Sami Megatunov, while Callum Voisin makes a return to drive for the Racing Bulls. After the regulation changes came into effect, this season saw 6 race winners, after Oscar Piastri found his first success driving for Red Bull. Both Mercedes drivers took race wins, just like both Ferrari drivers and the reigning world champion of George Russell. The Constructors' Championship saw much more of a shake-up this season, after BYD dropped to 3rd place, being overtaken by Mercedes and the eventual champions of Ferrari. Isaac Hadjar couldn't connect with his new car and finished down in P7, while his teammate and the reigning champion of George Russell could only achieve a 3rd place finish. He fell victim to the Ferrari drivers, as their newest driver Bortoleto jumped up to P2, while Charles Leclerc returned to championship glory, winning 9 races and scoring over 60 points more than his teammate. No one else managed more than 2 race wins, with Russell and Behrman winning twice, while Bortoleto, Pepe Marti and Oscar Piastri all won just once. Another 3 drivers will leave the sport just before the penultimate season, as Valtteri Bottas possibly retires, while both Pierre Gasly and Richard Verschoor have nowhere else to go. Liam Lawson will take the open Aston Martin seat, allowing Pepe Marti to move to Williams and Kimi Antonelli to return to once again drive for Mercedes. New driver Dino Beganovic will eventually make his debut for Haas, while Lando Norris makes a major return to drive for Cadillac. BYD will once again strike a deal with McLaren, which sees Alex Albon and Isaac Hadjar swap places for next year. Neither BYD driver won a race this year, with Antonelli being the only Mercedes driver, while both Ferrari drivers stood on the top step. BYD dropped another place down to P4, overtaken this time by Red Bull, as Ferrari dropped to 2nd and was overtaken by the Mercedes team once again. George Russell in P6 was the highest BYD driver, while Ferrari driver Gabriel Bortoleto dropped down to P3. Last season's champion Charles Leclerc failed to retain his title, as Kimi Antonelli returned to the sport to win his very first World Drivers' Championship and dominated the late seasons. 114 points separated the top 2, after Leclerc won twice and Antonelli took 13 race wins. The final transfer window will see another 3 drivers miss out on the final season, as Esteban Ocon, Tim Tramnitz and Sami Megatunov will all disappear. Nicolas Solov will move to Williams, with the other Williams driver Pepe Marti moving over to Cadillac. Callum Voisin completes the Williams lineup, allowing Ritomo Miata to enter and drive for the Racing Bulls. Open seats also allow for Richard Verschoor to return to Haas, and Freddie Rasmussen to make his debut at Audi in the final year. The final season saw a lot more action from 6 race winners, starting with Piastri in his home race, while both Mercedes drivers continued to win races. George Russell returned to winning ways, just like Charles Leclerc, while Isaac Hadjar managed to win his first Grand Prix. BYD have dropped all the way down to P6, while the top 2 of the constructors' standings remain the same, with Ferrari just behind the champions of Mercedes. Mercedes still won with Behrman down in P7, just ahead of George Russell, while the best Ferrari was Leclerc up in P3. He was a single point ahead of his teammate, but 13 points behind the runner-up Isaac Hadjar, making his first appearance in the top 3. However, quite unsurprisingly, Kimi Antonelli kept his Mercedes at the top of the driver standings to secure back-to-back drivers' championships. He dropped to just 9 race wins this season though, with the duo of Leclerc and Piastri winning twice, while Hadjar, Behrman and George Russell all won just once. But that reaches the end of a fairly successful decade for the BYD team. Let's have a quick recap of the entire simulation for our strongest performers. There were just 3 different constructors champions, as the sport was mainly dominated by Mercedes and Ferrari, while new team BYD snuck in there for a single title. 4 different drivers champions, with Lando Norris ending the season as a 5-time champion, while new champions were crowned in the form of Russell, Leclerc and Kimi Antonelli. 15 different drivers were able to win a Grand Prix, with quite a few first-time winners including Colapinto, Hadjar, Pepe Marti, Bortoleto, Gabriel Mini and Oliver Behrman. And despite winning just 2 titles, George Russell took 52 race wins and ends the simulation as arguably the most successful driver. But that is going to wrap up another F1 26 simulation. Make sure you drop a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you haven't already. There'll be links in the description to my various social media platforms, including my Patreon and Discord server, which is the best way to receive updates about uploads, live streams, but also to have a chat to me and other viewers of the channel. Once again, a massive thank you to F1 Clash, and you can download the game using my link in the description. But that is going to be all from me today, so I hope you have a good day, evening or night, wherever you are, and goodbye.